finished off the last piece for that bedroom set off camera, and here it is, ready to be brought into the bedroom. Next, I need to start making plans for my next furniture project, which will be the bedroom set for the other room. I've made a detailed set of plans on SketchUp, but I also went ahead and prepared some storyboards like these to help me do the layouts for the drawer fronts and the side panels for the bed. I've laid out the design so that I only have to cut dados into the small end pieces and not into the large blanks for the tops and the bottoms of the cabinet drawers that go underneath the bed. I still have a problem though, because some of this plywood is warped, so I have to mill it very carefully. Once it's milled, it'll go in place just fine because I can just clamp it and bend it into place without a big deal. But if I try to mill a dado on the cut side, I will not be able to get a consistent depth cut as I go through, and then my glue up later will go badly. To cut the dado that holds the bottom of the cabinet in place, I've installed a dado head cutter in my saw. Unfortunately, since this is just a small job site saw, it doesn't take a full 3/4 inch dado, so I've put in 3/8 inches and I'll have to make 2 passes. The back of the drawer cabinets have a cleat that stiffens the case, but it also acts as a ledger strip to hold the center board in place to support the mattress. I'm just gonna glue it in place, throw a couple of nails in. Nothing too complicated. Side panels also get ledger strips on the outside edge, fill in the gap between the end of the cabinet and the backboard. In order to clamp the end piece in place, I've installed 2 clamping cauls here, held in place by C-clamps, and then I can use 2 other C-clamps on either side to pull the piece into place. I don't have a proper panel raising bit for my router table, and frankly I don't always like them because I don't always like the profiles they give me. So I decided to make a panel raising jig for my table saw and dado blade. There's nothing particularly complicated about it. It just slides back and forth on the table. I've put a 22-degree angle to hold the board, and they'll just fit in like this, and I'll rotate it around. I have to make 2 passes because my dado blade only goes to a 1/2 inch wide on this saw, but it should do a nice job. Let's see how it works. After 2 passes with the dado blade, I've got a profile like this. Looks pretty good. It's going to take some sanding. Next, I'll need to cut off the remainder on the edges and back cut it so it fits into its groove. The finished panel is back cut, fit in the frame. I added a groove detail around the edges, and it needs some sanding. I've been milling up parts for what seems like days. It's time to start doing some assembly. I'll start off with the drawer fronts for the under the bed storage cabinet. I've recently added 2 tools to my toolkit. This is a jointer. It's an 8-inch wide jointer. It's from Cutec, and I guess they sell out of Tennessee, and so far I'm very happy with it. But it's come to my attention that not everybody understands why a jointer is necessary. Well, the wood that I get from the lumber yard, honestly, it's not so bad. It's reasonably straight. It's got a reasonably flat edge on it, but it's not perfectly straight and it's not perfectly flat. I'm getting a little tired of working with lumber that's not square, so this is the first piece of machinery that you use to square up lumber. Now, it is possible to do this with hand tools using a hand plane, but well, that's an awful lot of work for you're building an entire bedroom set to square up a couple hundred square feet of lumber. A joiner will put one flat edge on a board and then turn 90 degrees and up against the fence. It'll put a right angle flat edge on the other board. I've planed the board on one side, which is now flat and true. And then I put a right angle edge on it. Now, some of you may wonder why I put an edge on the other side as well. And the reason why is it just makes it easier for me to use the scrap after I've cut the first piece to width. You can't edge both sides of a board on a joiner because there's no guarantee that these edges will be parallel. But once I've cut it here, then I can switch around and use the other edge and cut it again on the other side. The next step is off to the planer. Now that my lumber is flat and has a nice right angle on the edge, I can run it through a surface planer and get it to an even thickness all the way across. It's important to note that this machine does not make wood straight. It just makes it an even thickness. If you run a crooked board through here, the board will just twist and come out the other side, evenly thicknessed, but still not straight. That's the purpose of the joiner. The difference between working with unplaned and unjointed lumber and jointed and planed lumber should be pretty obvious here. This is smooth, flat, fits up right next to each other without any gap in between, makes glue up, makes measurements, makes everything much easier. Now that I have proper stock to work with, I'll rip it to width. The rails for the dividers, I've milled up the tenons a little bit differently than the rails for the tops and bottoms. These will be making into a dovetail joint as opposed to a standard mortise and tenon. If you haven't built a dresser before, you'll be surprised at just how complicated it is to get all the drawers in the right spot and the right distance from each other. I strongly recommend laying it all out on a stick first, then transferring your measurements to all 4 locations, front and back of each panel, in order to get the positions of your drawer dividers correct. Once I had all the positions correct, I marked the boundaries of the mortises using this marking gauge. Now I can go ahead, drill out the waste.